Hello and welcome. My name is Gemstone, and today we are back in Our Life, Beginnings and Always. So, I know I've been saying for the last couple weeks that, that was gonna be the last stream. This one is probably not going to be. I know that we have quite a bit left to choose in the event planning phase. And then, so these three things in the event planning, and then the actual wedding itself. And I do have work today, so probably not gonna get that deep into it. So let's choose what we would like to do next. So at this point, I feel like I don't exactly know how far away it is, but also I know it doesn't matter, but brain want to do logic, so which one would we do next? So we've already picked our location and done our catering menu. So we already know what we're going to eat and where we're going to eat. So I think dance sessions should probably be next because that's something we're going to practice over the next little bit. So I feel like we should begin the dance sessions. Oh, you want to get started on that? Exciting. Baxter gestured down to the other door in the space, rolling his wrist to point with his whole hand in an extravagant gesture. There's a room here in the building you can use for dance lessons. Well, isn't that convenient? I'll need to schedule it, of course. We'd need to be certain there wouldn't be any conflicts. If you could wait a moment, please. He pulled out his phone and swiped his finger a few times, his brow furrowed as he checked some sort of calendar. He tapped something with a flourish and looked up with a grin. Cove watched with open antsiness. Cove and I can attend lessons in the afternoon. Then, Gemstone, we can have the evening. I believe I can pencil us in as early as tomorrow for the first sessions. Ooh, that's nice and quick. Happily, there is enough vacancy in the event room for individual sessions. One-on-one lessons are ideal for this. Every person is at their own level and will need guidance with different aspects. I can get everything arranged today if that works for you. Cove nodded seriously. There was no hesitation coming from his corner, despite his jitteriness. Let's do it. You shot Cove and Baxter a pleased thumbs up. Yeah, that's good. Baxter placed his phone down to clasp his hands together. His enthusiasm was hard to miss. Excellent. I'll make it happen. And he did. Baxter made the necessary arrangements right afterwards. He asked for your input occasionally and finalized the times. He planned each detail out exactly. Any specific idea that Cove or you had was jotted down and added to the considerations. What kind of music are you thinking of? Would you rather go with something fast or something slow? It doesn't have to be ballroom staples. I'm more varied than that. A recent wedding I helped with went with classical music for the first half, and then early 2010s dance for the last half. There's no wrong answer to this. Cove shrugged and left space for you to answer. Oh boy. Okay. I don't really know. I don't think I will have, dancing so much. I don't really know if I'm gonna have the whole reception thing, so not really sure what to choose. I guess I do like a lot of theater music, but I don't know exactly what that means. There's probably a couple pop songs that I would play. Oh, but for a wedding dance? Oh boy. I guess some pop music can be wedding dancey. Sure. It would be fun and would be much more your style than trying to dance to Vivaldi or Bach. Baxter nodded approvingly. Cove was even more supportive of your recommendation. Cool. I think I can guess some of the songs you're hoping for. Of course. And speaking of, let's chat about particular tracks. After continuing to discuss music selections for a while, your office time with Baxter finished and it was time to leave for the day. Goodbyes were said, knowing that the separation wouldn't last long. Tomorrow wasn't far. The hours passed by quickly. It felt like a blink by the time the session rolled around. A bit after lunch, you drove Cove over to his first solo dance lesson with Baxter. He was definitely nervous on the drive there. Despite his usual anxiousness, he insisted that he wanted to do the lesson on his own. He would show you his moves after you practiced. That's valid. You wished Cove luck and dropped him off, hoping he had a good time. You drove off as soon as he disappeared into the building. The plan was to run errands until it was time to pick him back up. You had heard about a new store that had opened recently. It was close enough that you decided to check it out and see if they had anything worth getting. Unfortunately, the store didn't have a good selection compared to other options, but you stalled in the snack section. There we go. You debated buying something in order not leave empty-handed. Oh, that's such a mood. I always feel weird going out of a store without something. That's how they get ya. Ooh. I mean, there's like the classic like before wedding trying to cut down so that you can look as good as possible, so let's go healthy fruit snacks. You grabbed a box that professed that it was high in vitamins. It looked tasty. Another store that you knew would have what you needed was minutes away. A short drive later and you were on your way to finishing your errands. It was nice to keep busy while waiting for Cove. When the time came, you drove the car up to the front of the building, stopping where Cove stood on the sidewalk. Cove greeted you with a smile and hopped into the car. He closed the door behind him and buckled his seatbelt with a click. How'd it go? Cove shifted in his seat while rubbing the back of his neck. It was awkward, as you probably guessed, but not that bad. He brightened as he thought back. You listened to the vivacity in his voice, even as he focused on driving through the parking lot. Baxter is kind of a good guy. Not a bad teacher. You pulled out from in front of the building and started making your way through the first intersection. That's great. Well, kind of a good guy wouldn't usually be considered high praise. From Cove to Baxter, it wasn't too shabby. Baxter really must have done his best to put Cove at ease. Yeah, I'm feeling even better about all this stuff going forward. I'm glad. You finally pulled into a parking space and parked the car. You couldn't linger in the car too long given your own lesson. It was time to go. You looked at the grocery bag in the back seat with the snack you had bought. You offered some to Cove. If you're hungry, feel free to snack. I bet we're gonna come back to nothing left. He probably needed some fuel after dancing for so long. You pointed over at the food, and Cove's eyes widened at the sight. That's perfect. I'll see you later. Bye. I love you. I love you too. You left Cove with the car and walked with a bounce in your step to meet up with your wedding planner turned dance instructor. The doors of the office building let you in after a firm yank. The air was cooler than it was outside. You followed Baxter's directions from yesterday to navigate the wide halls. A left past the fire extinguisher and then a right at the first set of doors. You found the set of thick glass doors. You peered into a large event room. It had to be the place. You entered the space and noticed the towers of chairs on the sides of the room. It was easy to imagine the room filled with a crowd, but for now it had all been cleared for your private class. This is a big room. A big empty room to dance in. You walked across the empty tile floor to the counter at the back where Baxter was. He raised his head and waved you over, setting aside some notes he had been reading. With the paper and an elegant fountain pen left on the counter, he strode forward and met you in the middle of the large room. Welcome, Gemstone. I'm glad you could make it. Hey. You waved at him and smiled warmly. I hope you've been well. I don't want to say this. That's super cringe. I'm pretty good. I'm fantastic. Excellent. Baxter pulled a remote from his jacket pocket and clicked a button. A speaker system you hadn't noticed before crackled to life. Familiar music filled the room. He must have been busy to already have the songs that you had talked about yesterday ready. He tucked the remote back into his pocket, and then Baxter turned his attention on you. He offered you his hand. I'll lead, at least at first. We can switch later if you prefer. His gesture felt grandly formal. He'd had enough performance practice to really feel as if he'd stepped out of a fairy tale ball. You took his hand, ready to get started. Oh boy. His fingers linked around yours, and he put his other arm across your back. Your other hand hovered awkwardly in the air. You weren't sure where to place it. His shoulder? His back? He noticed your confusion and directed you into the proper form for a slow dance. When you were comfortable, he guided you into the steps. You watched your feet, carefully following his lead. He was a good teacher and a reliable partner for dance. It didn't take long for you to start moving to the music, following the rhythm rather than worrying about what foot went where. Baxter suddenly smirked, the twitch of his lips getting your attention immediately. Oh, I recall that it wasn't just dance lessons I was available for, was it? I also offered to give you rides whenever you needed them, didn't I? Hopefully I haven't let you down with that. It took a moment before you understood what he was talking about. You laughed, clear and bright. I think we'll be all right. We have our own cars now. You were impressed he still remembered. But then again, you also remembered it. It had been a particularly memorable summer all those years ago. Being firmly in the flow, the discussion died down. The only exchange was the music and the sound of your shoes on the sleek floor in time with each other's. Yeah, sure. What happened to you after that summer? We threw him off? He faltered in his step, throwing the dance to a halt. He recovered quickly, his toes going back to precisely formed motions. But his face still showed the strain of the upset. Oh, I'm sorry. It's kind of strange how completely you disappeared after your vacation. Did something happen? Oh no! I didn't mean to upset him. Did he lose someone? He took a deep breath. Tremors went through his shoulders from the effort of keeping his perfect poise. Ah. I apologize for vanishing so thoroughly, and not even attempting to keep in touch. It was unkind. Oh. His lips twitched. It was closer to a grimace than anything resembling a smile, even though you thought that's what he was attempting. I didn't think it mattered at the time, to end it completely once I left Sunset Bird behind. At least, that's what I told myself, or rather, what I hoped would be true. I wished hard that when you and everyone there didn't see me anymore, that you'd never think of me again. You'd go on with your lives happily, and I wouldn't factor into it. Oh. He paused again. How did music sound so much like cold silence? That doesn't make much sense to you, I imagine. Actually, that makes perfect sense to me. Baxter offered a one-shoulder shrug for your supposed trouble. He took another deep breath, and determination sparkled in his eyes. It's the eternal story of my life. I want to be liked, but I can't be important. A friend for a season, a planner at a wedding. That's me. I'm not like him. Oh. Cove is a fiancé. He stays. He tries. Clingy, I think your friends and family like to joke. I never thought so. He didn't even care for me, but was willing to dance together to do a better job for his wedding. In life, there are just some ones, and then there's the one. You found your one, and I'm genuinely thrilled you did, and that he found his. All I want is to assist with that happiness, and to not get in the way of it. Aw, buddy. Ah, I assume this is like, if you break up with him afterwards. Because assumedly, if you play the Baxter DLC and then play this one, it's like supposed that you would have broken up in the meantime. But neither of us are here for our old relationship dynamic. That's ancient history. We don't need to get mired in the past when the future is so bright. Baxter's tone was pointed with finality. That was as much as he would say. The pace of the dance sped up, going back to what it had been before. You nearly stepped on his foot at the sudden change. Since he clearly was not going to discuss it more, you didn't attempt to pry for more details. This had gotten into incredibly personal territory. Okay. I'm trying to think of the scenario. In real life, in person, not over text, in person, dancing with him, at the moment, this could be taken weirdly, but also this is what I would normally reply. You deserve to be important. Aw. He dropped his gaze at your words, uncomfortable with your sincerity. You decided not to push anymore, and the tension slowly drained out of him. Yeah, it's important for people to hear sometimes, and you never know if you're going to be the only one to ever say it out loud. Baxter schooled his face, and for all the world appeared like the conversation had never affected him. Do you still dance often? I don't compete anymore, if that's what you mean. I haven't even kept up with it as a hobby lately. I do it for weddings, if the couple would like me to assist. He gazed into the dense distance, somewhere else for a heartbeat. Then he came back to you and smiled. I still love dance, clearly. He wiggled his eyebrows and put emphasis on his movements. You had to admit that he appeared happy enough during this session. There just isn't room for everything. I imagine that you've dealt with similar situations in your adult life. I see. Thanks for giving me an excuse to make time for a dance. No, thank you. You appreciated his expertise in this area. It was incredibly fortunate that he had the skill. You felt grateful for all the hours upon hours that he must have spent to get as good as he was. So tell me, how did things go with Cove? Baxter chuckled as he led you to the left. You followed, watching his reaction more than your feet. Cove is a remarkably sweet man. You have nothing to worry about, in more ways than just his dancing. But I won't say anything else. Instructor-client privilege. That response piqued your interest past simple curiosity. What had happened? The question was plain on your face, but Baxter suddenly focused on your heels. With him staring downward, you paid more attention to your timing. Very nice. It was clear that you weren't going to get more out of him on the topic. You focused on your movement. The acoustics of the room were surprisingly good for dancing. The music was at a good volume, and despite the tile flooring, the tapping of your steps didn't echo distractingly off the walls. You both continued to dance as the song cycled through and back. Thoughts played in your mind about the surrealness of reconnecting with Baxter again after all these years without contact. However, that was secondary to your goal of dancing well in your upcoming wedding to the love of your life. It wouldn't be too much longer until you would be doing this with your husband. You wanted Baxter to continue leading the dance. He obliged easily. By the end of the session, night had fallen. You said goodbye to Baxter, and Cove came to pick you up in the car. You mirrored his actions from earlier in the day, climbing into the passenger seat and clicking in your seatbelt. He took the opportunity to copy you as well. So, how'd it go? The amused sparkle in his eye let you know that using your words was completely and utterly intentional. Oh, they're all white. Oh yeah, I guess the multiple options thing. I'm glad I did it. You bounced in your seat, full of energy despite all the exercise you'd had. It had been a good experience. Cove grinned widely, happy for you. I'm glad this was a good idea. Also, Did I thank you for buying me a snack earlier? It was good. You're welcome. I hope there's some left. You craned your neck around to inspect the back seat. You saw an additional snack and Cove laughed. Don't worry, I didn't eat everything. I bought some drinks to go with them. I thought they'd be nice for a post-dance pickup. Cove better know how much you loved him, especially in moments like this. You settled in quietly for the ride. With the day's arrangements taken care of, Cove pulled out of the empty lot and started to drive away. Next time you were scheduled to come by, it would be for the usual kind of office visit. No dancing required. You highly anticipated meeting back up with Baxter. You had a good feeling about where this wedding was going. When you arrived for your session that day, you noticed Baxter's foot was tapping against the floor in a steady rhythm. It seemed the lessons from the day before were still on his mind. Ooh, right out the next day. Heya. Hi. Good afternoon. So nice to see you again. Now, we can keep going over the steps here and there and between other aspects of the planning, but our main focus should move beyond that. What shall we be doing today? Okay, I'm trying to think. So cake needs to be booked ahead of time. Like pretty decently ahead of time. But clothes may need to be altered or like custom made. Let's do a cake. Baxter nodded his head, confirming that he'd registered your choice. Beside you, Cove's excitement had bubbled over. He was bouncing in his seat, too eager to restrain himself. Oh yeah, Cove the foodie. Cake. Good idea, Gemstone. I'm definitely ready to plant treats. His open enthusiasm tickled you, eliciting an adoring chuckle that slipped out. Across the table, Baxter joined you with a soft laugh of his own. Meanwhile, Cove seemed oblivious to your amusement. You figured he was too lost in imagining delicious cakes to notice what was happening around him. What you needed now was for someone to turn those dreams into reality. The agency had worked with suppliers of all kinds, so Baxter had a list of bakeries that they recommended for weddings. You and Cove had a few personal favorites, too. Together, you reviewed the websites for all potential bakeries. Baxter had a wealth of handy tips of what to keep in mind when it came specifically to commissioning wedding cakes for you to take into consideration. The three of you whittled away the options until you finally settled on the one you wanted. With that decided, Baxter contacted them to arrange a meeting so you could select the flavors and discuss design ideas before working out practicalities. He easily secured a time that worked perfectly for both you and Cove. That brought you to the end of the meeting. The decision of which bakery to choose, the scheduling, briefing them on your basic requirements, and had taken all... let me just restart that. The decision of which bakery to choose, the scheduling, and briefing them on your basic requirements had taken up all the remaining time you had with Baxter for today. The three of you rose from your seats, one after the other. It's been great to see you. Yeah, I can't believe next time we see you we'll have our wedding cake picked out. Right, if everything goes to plan. Of course. I'm sure you'll have a great time together. I look forward to hearing what you decide on. Though I won't be there in person, you can always text me if you want advice during the process. Thank you. It was reassuring to... Cove will definitely be on top of this. It was reassuring to know that Baxter would be able to guide you if you got stuck, though you doubted that would happen. He waved goodbye as you and Cove left the office for the day. Ah, cute! The light tinkling of a bell over the door announced your arrival as you and Cove stepped inside, where you were immediately welcomed by a pleasant waft of sweet scents. Ah, bakery smells so good. The bakery was a delight for the senses, even before you'd taken a single bite. Decked out in a pretty shade of pink, it was impossible to miss. I'm not usually a huge fan of pink, but this peachy pink is actually one of the ones that I kind of vibe with. I wouldn't decorate my own space like it, but it's not like, ugh, pink when I look at it. Cove closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. There was a soft air of cakes and pastries baking in the oven, tinged with warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. Oh, he looks so blissful right now. The display case was full of the daily selection of mouth-watering delicacies, neatly lined up and ready to be taken away. The selection ranged from intricate specialty cakes to more rustic, homey brownies and cupcakes. Ooh. Usually, those kinds of treats would be everything you needed, but today was a special visit. You were entirely focused on the even better desserts waiting for you on the horizon. You could tell that Cove shared your feelings. He waited beside you with every outward appearance of patience, but you could tell his anticipation by the way he had kept a close watch on the kitchen door as he waited for an employee to come greet you. This uncharacteristic restraint was a stark contrast to any other time he'd visited a bakery, where he'd have rushed over to the display case and immediately began picking out cakes to take home. Aww. As he shifted from one foot to the other, you knew that he was fighting to hold back those usual urges. Luckily, his self-control wasn't tested for long. Soon the door to the kitchen swung open, and a friendly-looking face emerged. Spotting you and Cove, the person smiled and began heading over. As they approached, you saw that the name on their tag said Xavier, with a little purple button pinned to one strap of their apron with the words they them printed in black letters. Xavier walked right up to you and gave you a welcome so warm you could have sworn it had come fresh from the oven. Xake. Is that how you say it? Hello, thanks for coming by Xake. Xake? I don't know what that's supposed to be. Anyway. Is there anything I can get for you? Hi. Cove paused, pointing first at himself and then at you as he spoke. We're Cove and Gemstone. We've got an appointment here. His voice, which had started out measured and even, became hushed as the thrill of what you were here to do started to get to Cove. When he resumed speaking, it broke further still, devolving into a rushed whisper that Xavier needed to lean in to catch. It's to plan our wedding cake. We're getting married. Thank you for making time for us. Xavier's eyes lit up at the introduction. Of course. Welcome, Gemstone and Cove, our bride and groom. Cove preened ever so slightly at those last words, his chin jutting out with confidence. I'm Xavier, the head cake artist here. We're so happy to be working with you for such an important event. You can take some seats right there in front, and we can start talking options. They gestured to a nearby table. You and Cove obliged, taking your seats. As you sat down, your stomach somersaulted. Why do they have decorating stuff just out on the sake, out on the seating table? You were really here to pick out a wedding cake, the cake that would be served at your wedding. That is what is implied in the term wedding cake. Yes. It hadn't quite sunk in before, but being invited to begin had made it feel more official. But knowing that you weren't alone in feeling that way comforted you, and you grinned at the love of your life. Cove beamed back at you. The baker had taken a detour over to the back shelf, where they picked up a binder before coming to stand before you at the table. I went over the info our baking assistant took when the appointment was arranged, so we can dive right into things. So, let's get to it. Starting with the size of the cake. How big do you want to go? We can go as big as 5 tiers high. 2 or 3, maybe? Cove tilted his head to the side as he looked to you for input. We're probably gonna have a smaller wedding, so 2 sounds perfect. Cool. Seeing as you'd reached a conclusion, Xavier noted it down in the binder. A 2-tier cake it is. They glanced up from the binder, smiling. That will make things really easy to present well. Yeah, once you get above 2 tiers, it can be pretty tricky to support the cake because it's got to be supported on its own weight. So even for one tier, you'll likely need dowels and a second cake board in it. My mom's a baker, so I know a little bit about this process. In terms of decorating, is there any kind of direction you'd want us to aim for in the overall style? Cove pursed his lips, stumped by the question. Artistic vision had never been his strong suit. That's okay, it's my strong suit. Though you'd reviewed ideas for decorations and color schemes together, asking Cove to distill those visions and themes into words was doomed to failure. You took it from there and said, "Ooh, rustic." I like cakes that look like birch logs and have leaves and stuff on them. Cove sighed, relieved, and expressed his approval. "Yeah, that's right. We can work with that for sure. Any color ranges in mind?" Again, Cove fell silent, like a kid hoping not to be called on in the classroom. Even though it was just the three of you, and he had no chance of hiding, you could swear that he was shrinking lower in his seat, as if hoping to go unnoticed. Aww. As entertaining as that was, you decided to spare Cove before he slipped under the table. You spoke up and said, "Ooh, classic white pastel, earth shades, muted, dark, bright, white with color pops, rainbow. Earth shades, earth shades, earth." Well, so I would have a wedding in the fall, so I would go with like muted tones and like fall themed stuff. But we're doing the poppy field and the beach, so it should probably be, I guess that counts as earth shades? Yeah, maybe, because I said rustic, so it's like maybe old-fashioned beach, so like peeling painted wood, like a boat or something, I don't know. Like that kind of theming. Not that obvious, but probably muted? Got it. And what's one color you want me to keep on the top of my mind? Ah, gold. Gold. Nice, nice. I'm getting you. Xavier looked up from the binder. Right, so we're going for a 2-tier gold cake that's rustic. You could picture the cake clearly now. It was just what you'd wanted. Yeah, that's right. Cove, who was staring at you like you'd saved him from a life or death situation rather than answering a couple of simple questions in a pleasant bakery, gave you a thumbs up. Xavier watched you both with a smile. This cake really is shaping up. Time for the fun part. I'll be right back. The tasting. They got up and made their way to the kitchen. The fun part? Cove echoed the words, puzzled but intrigued. He peered after Xavier, trying to catch a glimpse of the magic happening behind the closed doors. Craning his neck didn't grant Cove X-ray vision, but that was just fine, as you weren't kept in suspense for long. Xavier quickly returned with a large covered serving tray. Cove gasped, his fingers curling with anticipation. Gimme, 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 gimme. Careful, coming through. Careful, coming through. I'm losing the voice with Xavier. I keep like mixing all of the voices together. They lowered the heavy platter onto the table, where it clattered against the hard surface as it settled. Ooh. Xavier lifted the cover to reveal several plates of little cake slices, with mounds of different frosting and filling flavors. Oh, wow. The beautiful array of colors and breadth of the selection made for a wonderfully presented array of treats. Cove gaped, wowed by the revelation. We get to try samples? Yeah, Cove, it's a wedding cake. So, wedding cake session. Ow. Xavier giggled at Cove's reaction. Given just how much enthusiasm Cove had, you bet there weren't many previous grooms whose response could compare. You do. They pointed at the tray and began talking you through the selection, starting with the neat little slices of cake. So, we've got a few cake flavors for you today. Vanilla, chocolate, red velvet, citrus, and such. They moved over to the frostings and fillings. There's vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, maple, and mocha buttercream. Over here we've got chocolatey and fruit fillings, though the inside can simply contain more frosting if you'd prefer. Having talked you through the samples, they straightened up. These are some of our most popular options, but not everything. You can see all our options on the order forms. As they talked, they took out 2 copies of the order sheet and presented you with one each. All the possibilities for each element of the cake were laid out before you. That's everything. You're welcome to eat whatever parts look appealing, or you can have everything on the platter if you've got the stomach for it. Oh boy. Cove's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Knowing Cove, you suspected that he intended to take Xavier up on the offer to sample everything. He picked up the fork provided and began systematically working through the platter. He took scoops out of the cake, frosting, and filling options in turn, moving from left to right and from top to bottom. You chuckled softly, amused that your hunch had been correct. I mean, why wouldn't you try everything? Though Cove was evidently intent on eating a bit of everything, you noted that he was careful to leave at least half of each sample, in case you wanted it too. I'm trying everything, why not? You started trying everything as well. It all looked delicious. Picking up a fork, you joined Cove in sampling the cakes, frosting, and fillings on offer. You murmured your delight to each other as you discovered new combinations and enjoyed the sheer variety laid out before you. Because, I mean, they're just going to have to throw out anything we don't eat, so we might as well, you know, for the sake of not being wasteful, obviously. Cove's eyes shone as he looked at you, glad to be sharing the experience. You were so enraptured that you nearly forgot that you weren't alone with Cove, but this too was by design. The baker stood by approvingly, careful not to do anything that might interrupt your enjoyment. You relaxed into the moment, enjoying the experience together. Cove shimmied happily in his seat. The different varieties had gone down very well with him. They're all so good. He cracked a grin. Hey, could we get a tier for every flavor? Xavier laughed. Unfortunately, we can't. At least not in a single cake, and I'm guessing you didn't want several different cakes for your wedding. Yeah, we should just go with the one. I mean, we are having 2 tiers, so we could do 2 different combinations. It's okay, Cove. We can always get cakes for our anniversaries in the future. It would be nice to taste the experience over again, year after year. Especially if you could continue to get cakes from the same bakery that had provided your wedding cake. Oh. The suggestion made him swoon for you. The promise of food and staying together was a perfect hit. My goofy little guy. Now that you and Cove were experts in the bakery's cakes, it was time to figure out the details. We can do the cake in all in one flavor, top to bottom, or let you choose 2 sets of different flavors. What works for you? Having different flavors for the tiers sound fun, because then people get an option. Because some people won't like certain things, and, you know, it's just nice, you know, have that variety. Yeah, let's do that. Plus, that would prevent Cove from having to narrow it down to literally just one. He can probably pick his 2 favorites. Or 1 favorite each, in case we have different ones. It's perfect. Cove lifted himself up off the chair briefly to switch his position. He moved over from leaning forwards towards the tray and shifted to be situated on the side of the chair, facing you. So, what's your thoughts? You don't need to stick to it forever, but were you thinking something kind of plain, chocolatey, fruity, or what? You picked up the copy of the form to review the options again. After studying it carefully, you said, "Oh, I tend to get, like, fruity, like, I have lemon cakes or, like, blueberry cheesecake I had one year. Yeah. I don't know if I had an apple cake, but I do tend to like the fruity flavors, because I've had a lot of, you know, vanilla and chocolate cake." Fruity. I'll do the smaller upper tier so that people who don't like... Oh, unless he also chooses fruit, I guess. Okay. He rested his chin in his hand as he stared thoughtfully into the distance. A smile drifted across his face as he pictured the possibilities for your cake. Ooh. Then what do you think of, like, a lemon cake with strawberry buttercream and mixed berry preserves for the inside? Yes! Although, can we tweak a part of it? I would love blueberry instead. Although strawberry lemonade is pretty good. I don't know if I want to go with mixed berry, though. Maybe a different filling? Cove sat up straight, amazed that his idea had been a starting point for collaboration with you. Yeah, I'd love you to add your own thing. When it came to the inside filling, you proposed... Ooh, ganache. That's so good, but not very good with lemon. Buttercream in the same flavor, buttercream in a different flavor. Okay, not mousse or ganache, those are chocolate. Not custard, not a huge fan of it, makes the cake all soggy. Whipped cream is pretty good, but that makes it really complicated for transport and stuff because you gotta keep it in the fridge. Let's go fresh fruits or berries, like fresh strawberries inside a lemon cake with strawberry frosting. Oh, that sounds delicious. Uh-oh. I wonder if that's what I want for my actual wedding cake. Fresh fruits or berries. Specifically, strawberries. Cove leaned back in his seat, watching you curiously as he waited to hear what you were thinking. You glanced over the form again and got started on the next tier. Thinking about the type of cake you wanted, you decided to suggest, I feel like red velvet would be good. Like lemon and red velvet. So red velvet's kind of like an in-between between chocolate and vanilla. And it would also taste good mixed with the lemon. So the chocolate and lemon might not go so well together. Vanilla and lemon could go okay, but I feel like the red velvet would also go well with the strawberries too. Spice cake is also good, but I want something that almost everyone is okay with too. Like a fruity one and then a family-friendly one, because a lot of my family isn't as much a fan of the fruit cakes that I am, so perhaps red velvet? For the frosting, you like the idea of... Ooh, red velvet with mocha is really good. But, like I said, it's gotta go with the lemon. Maybe mint? Red velvet mint. I mean, that sounds pretty yum. Red velvet mint. Strawberry lemon. Yeah, like mint lemonade is a thing, right? I know that strawberry and mint can go together. I feel like that would be okay. White chocolate would also be a pretty good flavor, but I don't really like white chocolate. Like, it would be a good combo, but I'm not a huge fan. Maple doesn't really go with lemon. Let's go with mint. I like the idea of that. When it came to the inside filling, you proposed... Oh, that's where ganache could come in. Because ganache is so good. Ganache. Milk chocolate. Oh. Ooh, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate lemon. That would work. Milk chocolate. I feel like dark chocolate would work best. Cove, who'd been nodding along with your suggestions, recapped the idea. So, you're thinking of a red velvet cake with mint frosting and dark chocolate flavored ganache on the inside? That's right. It sounds really good to me. Ah. Oh no, this sounds so yummy. I want cake now. Then your mouth-watering cake flavors were all set. You were sure it was going to be a hit at the wedding. That sounds so yummy. I want that now. The inside of the cake is great. All that's left now is the cover. How should we wrap your baby up? Do you like fondant? Or maybe ganache? No, fondant is... Cove shrugged. You said... Not fondant. Ganache is really heavy, so I feel like just the bit in the middle as the filling will be good, so just buttercream. Got it. Almost done. They scribbled that down in the binder. Finally, what elements would you like me to include in the design and presentation of the cake? Ooh, okay. So royal icing gets crunchy. Meringue? Oh, meringue. That's pretty good. Oh, like a lemon meringue. I do like those. Oh boy. Some edible paint. I don't feel like a classic cake topper is really my style. Yeah, maybe meringue as well. Sugar decor, chocolate decor, everything. Just everything. Let's just click everything. That's complex. That's expensive. Not a huge fan of pearls. Royal icing's pretty good. And that's everything. Extra fancy, huh? That works for me. Awesome. We've got ourselves a cake plan. The baker's words made it official. You picked your wedding cake. You couldn't help being especially thrilled about that. The wedding cake was such a focal part of the party. It would be featured in photographs and shared among your family and friends. The joy of the day distilled into a beautiful confection. Just thinking about it left you breathless. Now I want cake so bad. That sounds so yummy. You glanced at Cove out of the corner of your eye, wondering if he was feeling as excited as you were. He was leaning forward in his seat, a rapt expression on his face. As Xavier continued speaking, you pulled yourself back to the present. I'll take all the info you've given us today and use it to think up the finished design. I'll keep you in the loop on how it's going. Though before you go, are you wanting any other dessert on the side? Maybe cupcakes or cookies? Or we could do something else if there's anything specific you had in mind. We could do... we've had a few of these things with Cove. We've had fudge, crepes, and pretzels with Cove. I wish I could ask his opinion. Okay. Cupcakes are basically just small cake, so I don't think we need those. Cookies are a good option. They're also good for take-home wedding favors, though. So that would be cool. Ice cream is complicated. Oh, cinnamon rolls. Okay, think of what Cove likes. I know he really liked the cinnamon pretzels, but like, are they hot pretzels or just like chocolate covered pretzels or something? Because I cannot stand chocolate covered pretzels, but hot pretzels are so good. Are wedding pretzels a thing? Cove roared with laughter. He struggled to rein in his amusement long enough to speak. Please tell me that's an option. Unexpected, but not impossible. We can make you some pretzels. Cove beamed with delight. The three of you talked over the details of your additional dessert. Because we had cinnamon sugar pretzels at the... what would it be called? Along the beach side. Multiple times, I think. Xavier skillfully guided you through it all to determine everything from your preferences for flavor and texture to the quantity you needed. Eventually, it was all set up. Xavier reviewed their notes in the binder. So, you're getting a two-tiered cake with a rustic kind of feel that's multi-flavored? And you're also getting some pretzels along with it? Your heart fluttered as you imagined the cake once again. You and Cove standing over it and ready to take the first cut. The side dessert beautifully complemented the cake, completing the picture perfectly. Yep, those are our desserts. Cove bounced in his chair again, his hands clasped at the edge of the table. His excitement was as palpable as your own. This is gonna be so good! Xavier grinned, pleased to see the two of you so happy. Thanks again for coming to us for your wedding. We'll make the desserts of your dreams. You worked through the outstanding specifics of your order with Xavier, who was determined to get everything right for your big day, and had an answer ready for everything you could throw at them. Once the final arrangements had been confirmed, you left the bakery feeling confident that your wedding cake was going to be just wonderful. Cove, naturally, shared your optimism completely. As per usual, you, Cove, and Baxter met up on another day for another session. A few light-hearted words were engaged as Baxter watched the two of you amusedly. Cove's mood was still shining, and Baxter could tell.
I take it the cake designing went well.
Like a child who's excited to show their latest work of crayon art to their teacher, Cove shared the news with pure happiness. It's gonna be delicious.
I'm so pleased to hear that. What shall we be doing today?
Ah, last part of planning. I'd want to settle on our clothes for the day.
Wonderful.
He clapped his hands together at the thought.
I can imagine you'll both look incredible, so... I recall that the two of you are intending to keep the outfits nice and secret for the special day. Does that mean you're each shopping alone, or were you thinking about extending the invitation to someone else?
I want my dad to come. I mean, I know my mom would want to come too, but she doesn't live close, so, you know. Cove shrugged weakly. Baxter nodded with a faint quirk of humor in his expression. It'll be nice for Mom to see it on our actual wedding day, though.
Of course.
You felt for Cove, familiar with the issue yourself. You could think of a few geographically unavailable people it would have been nice to bring with you as well. You nodded. Even though it would have been nice for Cove to share this experience with his mom, you were sure that no matter what Cove wore, Kyra would still be just as excited to see him on the big day. And it was great that he'd still be able to bring his dad. Tell him I said hi. For your own shopping adventure, you pictured how you wanted the experience to go. Then you directed your attention back at Baxter, finally ready to answer his question.
This is a special thing. They're probably gonna want to be there.
I'm gonna go with my mom's. You welcomed your mom's help on this shopping adventure. The trip was far less likely to end up with you scrutinizing yourself in a mirror when trying on the 13th outfit for 15 minutes, trying to judge it and the previous dozen options for yourself. That is fair. With that decided, Baxter rubbed his hands together in satisfaction.
Sorry, quick yawn. Perfect. But before you run off on the next outing, it would be best to choose where you're going. Do you have a preference on which store or stores you'd like to visit? There are two excellent local shops that should be able to set you both up with whatever you need. One is primarily a dress boutique, but it also has romper and skirt options. The accessory selection is also divine. There's also a shop that focuses on suits. Pantsuits, skirt suits, they have it. They also have all relevant additions that you'd be likely to want.
I'm gonna wear a suit, so I guess I'll need to go to the suit shop.
And you, Gemstone?
I want to get my outfit at the boutique.
That works.
I like dress. Cove nodded in agreement.
You make this so easy for me.
Baxter sounded pleased as he reached over for his notebook on the nearby desk. He clicked his pen and jotted something down.
I'll leave the rest up to you, and I'll see you both during our next session. Good luck.
His smile was curled but bright. He waved you both off. Thanks. Cove's voice was nervous as he started to shuffle out. Hugh got up, following him. We appreciate you making this easy for us, too. Time passed from your meeting with your planner, and soon both you and Cove were going out for the big shopping trip. You temporarily said goodbye to your fiancé. You hugged Cove, and he squeezed you back with a big grin on his face. Have fun, Gemstone. I will. You were excited. Hopefully you'd find the perfect outfit that day. Your car beeped when you unlocked it, and you climbed in the driver's seat. Cove waved you off when you left. You swung by the neighborhood and picked up your parents along the way. Mom and Ma joked about who called shotgun first, and who had spread out in the back seat. It was a pleasant drive full of light conversation. For example, you learned that there was a rumor going around Sunset Bird about finally fixing up the old park. Ma doubted it was going to happen, since apparently it had been going around the grapevine for a while. Mom didn't think there would be smoke without a fire. That's getting off topic. What were you hoping to find today, Gemstone? You mentioned a few of your ideas, and your parents listened eagerly, chattering about possible ideas for the rest of the drive.
Up ahead was a very proper, fancy building. You could tell it was going to be really nice. Whoa. You entered the boutique and took in the view. Pretty. The first thing you noticed was how warmly lit the shop was. Despite most of the merchandise being stark whites, the lights had a soft glow. It was fanciful, like a fairy tale place where dreams could come true. The dresses had room to breathe, each displayed like it was a treasure. In the air, there was a faint scent. You thought it was something floral, but you also thought that something smelled like vanilla as well. Whatever it was pretty and not overwhelming. Fancy! Ma's eyes narrowed as she scrutinized the place. Yes, this should do well. Mom chuckled as she walked further into the shop. Well, if Lonnie says it's acceptable, then we're in good shape. A woman with an official-seeming binder stepped across the floor, her high heels not clacking once. She made eye contact with you and smiled. Hello, is Gemstone here? Yes, I'm Gemstone. Ah, Gabrielle. Thank you for coming and congratulations. My name is Gabrielle and I'll be your stylist today. We'll do everything we can to find your dream look for the day. She grinned brightly and gestured for you to follow her. She led you over to a sitting area. One sec. Before you settle in, let me get a few measurements. You obliged, and Gabrielle took a measuring tape from her pocket and wrapped it around you. You could tell she had a lot of practice with how efficient she was at it. Thank you so much. Now feel free to sit. We can get this going. You sat in the middle of the seats. It seemed appropriate, and with how the spots were arranged, as you'd be able to get up and out easily. That'd be helpful considering why you were there. Your mom's filed into a couple open seats. Ma still seemed to be inspecting her surroundings while Mom beamed at you. Gabrielle flipped over her binder and tapped the laminated pages with her manicured nails. To get an idea of your vision, I have a few questions for you. This will guide the selection process. I find it makes things a little more manageable if I bring you options based on your preferences, instead of you going over every single piece we've got. We wouldn't want to overwhelm you. Ma smirked but made no comment. She had supervised the boutique since you were a child, and likely knew more than most of the employees here. However, you appreciated that she was respectful of their process. I know it's a lot to think about at once, but just take it one question at a time, and remember that we can always go in another direction later if you want. Okay, sounds good. The stylist handed the questionnaire over to you, and you skimmed over the questions. It got more detailed as it went, but the start was fairly simple. The type of clothing you wanted brought out was a dress. That was in a non-traditional shade, specifically kind of like cream colored? I guess that's a traditional shade then. Traditional shade? Ah, yeah. Like a off-white or a champagne? Or is that like a... Yeah, let's go with cream. With what kind of garment you wanted and the desired color filled out, the questionnaire transitioned into more style-based questions. You went down the list, picking out descriptor after descriptor that sounded best. Traditional. Texture. Flowy. No detailing. This is summer, so short-sleeved. Ankle. Finally, you handed the binder back to the stylist. She ran her gaze up and down the page. I'm on it. I'll go get you something. Gabrielle turned on her heels and headed to the back of the store, out of sight. The distinct sound of the stylist's heels deliberately not clacking on the floor alerted you that she was coming back. She carried a dress that seemed right out of what you pictured from the questionnaire. It was the right color, right fabric, the style you indicated. Seeing all the elements put together in a single piece, the dress had a relaxed feel to it. You'd look amazing in that, and you'd follow your mom's footsteps with that kind of style. True, it's wonderful, and not just because I would also wear something like it. What do you think, Gemstone? I mean, if they matched everything I was thinking of, then sure. Yeah. Your stylist lit up at your approval. She held the dress closer to you. Then you should put it on. A stylist walked you. Oh, the stylist walked you to the changing room, a generously sized space with a full mirror closed off by a heavy curtain. She hung the dress on a metal hook. Now, before I give you some privacy, would you like me to grab any accessories to complete the look? Earrings and a tiara. Ooh, an anklet. That could be cute. Shawl. Nah, keep it classy. That's everything. You shared your ideas with the stylist. From your description, she had something in mind and left you to collect what you requested. You closed the curtain after Gabrielle was gone. You were glad that there was a space to put your clothes when you changed out of them. You slipped into the dress. It fit well for something off the rack. Gabrielle knew what she was doing with the sizing. You inspected yourself before you left the dressing room. The view from the mirror was breathtaking. You truly were about to have a wedding. You slid the thick cloth partition aside and stepped back into the main floor of the shop. You paused in front of another well-lit mirror and beamed. Gabrielle walked up and accessorized you. The look was finished. In the mirror, the day you were planning for looked back at you. You, in the dress you'd wear to the ceremony. It felt real. You were content. Every piece was fitting together, and each moment was joyful. You nodded at your reflection, and then spun around to face the others. Ma hugged around Mom from the side. It's amazing, honey. Mom took a moment to recover from being bowled over from the unexpected hug, but rallied. You've never looked better, kiddo. You twisted around, looking back at the mirror. It was the right choice. You went back to talk with the stylist together, and she helped you get things sorted. This is not realistic. It would not be the first. Well, actually forget I said that. Gabrielle took more of your measurements and discussed the shoes you'd be wearing. The boutique would tailor the dress to fit you, and your shoe size exactly. It didn't take long to wrap everything up. You thanked Gabrielle for her help, and had every belief that the next time you put on that dress it would be one of the best days of your life. When outside, the first thing on your mind was calling Cove to let him know you were done. You selected Cove's name in your favorites and tapped the call button. He answered you right away. His voice was chirpy over the phone, eager to talk to you. Hey, Gemstone. Hi. How did it go? It went great. Another thing to check off the list. That's so good. I'm glad it worked out. He sounded sweet, and a small part of you melted. Talking to him made you even happier than you had been for successfully finding your outfit. How are things for you? I did too. Me and Dad kind of struggled, but it worked out. I'm pretty sure it's all good. You should like it. Oh, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to show you. I really think you'll like it. The shop assistant really helped us out. It's the most coordinated outfit I think I'll ever wear. You heard Mr. Holden's laughter cackle faintly over the phone. You got that right. I didn't even realize that matching pants to a shirt was such a big deal. I can respect someone who knows the secrets of clothing. Suddenly, the days before the wedding seemed even longer. Now you would be in suspense. But I should probably let you go. We can see each other in person once we get back. Goodbye for a little bit, Gemstone. I love you. Love you too. Bye, Cove. You ended the call gleefully and tucked the phone away. Then you pulled out your keys and hurried off to your fiancé. Hey, it rhymes. You also gave your appreciation to your moms for not interrupting your conversation with Cove. They had been able to sense you'd been missing him and needed that time. You parked in the familiar street to drop off your moms. With the car parked in front of your old house, you said your goodbyes. Thanks for letting us come along. Hopefully we didn't cramp your style too much. I'm sure we'll see you soon. You thanked them for joining you, and waved until they disappeared into the house. In the car, with the scenery flying past you, you reflected on the day. You thought back to what you had put together, and felt your heart flutter. Your image was crystal clear. You could see yourself in it, and the view of your wedding day had become that much more defined in your mind. Right on time, you entered Baxter's office for your next meetup. He was waiting there for you.
Hello. Were you both able to find pieces you're happy with?
I think so. It's gonna be wonderful. Yeah.
As it should be.
With all of the work, planning, and effort a thing of the past, you were having your final appointment with Baxter. The two of you situated yourselves on the purple couch in your normal spots, though Cove was unable to treat the visit as anything near normal. His legs had stiffened from nervousness so badly, the bend in his knees was like the snap of two branches. He nearly fell onto the cushion. Baxter, on the complete opposite end of the comfort spectrum from Cove, smiled with a natural ease.
Well. Then this is the last time we're likely to see each other until the day of your wedding. Are you feeling prepared?
Yes. Cove didn't react whatsoever. Not to Baxter or you. He was frozen solid. Baxter ran his hands along the inside edge of his jacket and placed his most encouraging smile on his face.
In all honesty, you've both done beautifully. Your wedding will be an event to be proud of, and I'll be there to make certain it flows smoothly. All you need to do now is enjoy yourselves.
Each line Baxter spoke chipped away at the frosted shell around Cove until it cracked. Your fiancé replied in a small voice. Thank you. Wow, thanks.
Now.
Having broken the ice, Baxter easily shifted back into work mode. He touched the tips of his fingers to a pile of papers on the desk to his side.
I've got the details for the hotel for you here. I was able to book 2 standard single-bed rooms for you to use to get ready in. The hotel is minutes from the ceremony venue, so you won't need to make a trip out there the morning of.
Thanks, Baxter. You're good at this. Cove's admittance was almost embarrassed. He scratched at his cheek and shared a look with you. You remember how hard of a time the two of you had getting a room when you would come into Sunset Bird for your mom's anniversary. It was an ordeal. Cove chuckled, knowing you were reminiscing over the same experience. Baxter accepted the compliment earnestly without prying. He leaned an elbow against his chair's armrest and propped his head up against his hand.
I'm glad to hear that. I do strive to be.
He continued to relax, following up his prior motion with the cross of his legs.
And I very much appreciate your great patience with the series of questions throughout this experience. I do still have yet one more topic I'd like to discuss. When you leave here, the wedding planning is over. Do either of you have an opinion on seeing your beloved before the ceremony?
That was not something Cove had considered. He didn't have the words to back up the hasty interruption. Baxter smoothed it over by elaborating.
I know some couples follow a tradition of completely cutting contact in the lead up to the wedding, so it's a reuniting when they come together for the ceremony. Others stay apart physically, though they communicate over the phone, and there are those who don't participate in that whatsoever and stay with one another.
I mean, what was the point in hiding our outfits? If we're not yeah. This time, Cove gave himself space to consider it, letting the concept sink in. I mean, I didn't have plans to be away from Gemstone. I like being around her when that's an option. But I guess maybe we could do that? If it's a special thing for weddings. He laughed breathily and sent Baxter a question of his own. Are you gonna make fun of me for being clingy now?
Never.
You knew just how much Baxter meant that. Cove, however, didn't have the same context. Oh, okay.
You patted Cove on the shoulder reassuringly. In disbelief, Cove's eyes bounced back and forth between you and your planner. He was able to express his want to always be around you, and no one in the room had given him a hard time for it. Cove absolutely beamed at that revelation. It was a pre-wedding miracle. You were charmed by both his overt affection for you, and by how cute he genuinely was. But you made an effort not to be entirely distracted, and you gave an answer to the question at hand. Why they word it like that, though? Cove, would you mind staying in a separate hotel room? We can talk over the phone. I know you would have preferred being together, but like, we said we were gonna walk up the aisle, I think, together, so we can meet like just outside of the room and see each other for the first time. It would be all cute and stuff. Anyway. Yes, definitely. Call me. I'm glad you asked, because, yeah, I am a little clingy. Cove shuffled the balls of his feet against the carpet, all the while glancing over at you bashfully. You held on to his sweet gaze as long as you could. You were going to have to go without it for a while soon. Off to the side. Off to the side, Baxter watched the two of you from his spot on the office chair. The fondness in his expression for you and Cove had tipped past his usual professional distance. Aw. Not wanting to ruin the moment, he spoke in a soft voice. Very good. Everything is settled then. That wasn't his voice. Very good. Everything is settled then. From there, the rest of the meeting was spent going over final details and the whole plan step by step. Baxter wanted to make sure you were on the same page and prepared for the events ahead. He shared amusing anecdotes of past weddings he'd planned. Some highlighted actual potential pitfalls you could intentionally avoid, and others were one-in-a-million debacles. The most unbelievable story of a particular orchard ceremony from the year before was a story I can read. The stage was set with flowers, a walkway, seating, and wooden arch at the end. He was looking on at a final survey, primed for the guests who arrived, when an out-of-control truck with a back end full of apples drove straight through. The driver was unharmed when he got the truck to stop, and the couple were still married, albeit in a much simpler arrangement. But Baxter distantly remembers the almost comedic surrealness of it. Seeing a completed wedding and then having it flattened back to the ground in the blink of an eye was something he never expected or hoped to experience. While the planner chuckled in recollection, Cove leaned over to ask if you thought there'd be any reason a fruit truck might have to be at your venue. You were pretty sure there wasn't. The stories and laughter continued until the end of the appointment. It reminded you of the final day of class before summer vacation. Technically you were still in school, but everyone was eager for the fun to begin. Then goodbyes were exchanged as usual, with promises to see each other soon, like there had been every time you'd visited. However, when you left the office, you had to wonder if you would ever go back there again. When you saw Baxter next, it would be at the wedding location. Maybe you and Cove... I can read. Maybe you would return someday, if you and Cove decided to renew your vows and needed a planner again. Or maybe you could visit just as friends and not as customers. Under a wide, starry sky, you and Cove hopped into his car to head back. Despite having done it many times before, it felt completely different that time. After the click of the seatbelts being snapped into place, there was a silence in the cab. None of the boisterousness from minutes ago had come along with you. Cove's expression was pensive as he rounded the curb and got the car out onto the street. A gentle rumbling resonated over you from wheels rolling across tarmac. That was the only word he managed to articulate before his mouth clammed up tight again. He had an internal struggle made visible, and ultimately he made enough peace with it to finally smile. Right now I have a lot going on in my head. You probably guessed that. There's so much I want to say to you about us and what's happened. All of this. But it would probably make more sense if I said it during the wedding, right?
His voice dropped to a complete whisper, but his grip on the steering wheel intensified.
It's so close now.
Cove took in a deep breath through his nose, allowing his fingers to loosen again. That was followed by him answering his own question.
Don't worry about it. Pretend this didn't happen.
I can wait for you.
Thanks. You're always nice to me.
That warmed you up inside. Nothing felt better than knowing he could rely on you.
But there's a lot of other things I'm thinking about too. Like the fact that these are the last moments of our lives together not being married. After this, I'll be your husband and you'll be my wife. Unbelievable.
I love you, Cove.
I love you too.
Twisting in your seat, you let the side of your face rest against the back of the chair. You rested there at the end of such a long project, watching your almost husband as he continued to drive ahead. The two of you were moving forward, full of hope and anticipation for the very near future. After days, weeks, years of waiting to commit yourself to the love of your life, the morning of your wedding arrived. Alrighty. So, I think that will be a good place to end it today then. Right before the wedding. So next time we'll have the full experience. So next time should potentially should potentially actually be the final stream of this, depending how long the wedding itself is and if there's like stuff after. Not really sure, but that's gonna do it for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this story so far. It's so cute and so fun. Get to personalize everything, and now I'm thinking about wedding stuff. Oh boy. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and farewell.